things that Dani and I have really appreciated about our friendship, and we've been friends at this point over 10 years, even though we're only, 19. We've been friends for quite some time. And the one thing that I've always truly appreciated about our friendship is how deep we can go without feeling like we're drowning the other person. And sometimes when you are having deep healing conversations, it can be triggering and challenging, and you want to be like, I'm good, love, and joy. Pick somebody else to talk about it with. However, we have been sure to be sure that we have conversations that are not traditionally had, especially not in public. And the question right now, or the conversation, right now is one around money and our feelings around our worthiness of it.
The coins, the bag.
The coin, the bag. Okay. Because we are making sure we tap into all the things. Yes, we want you to be emotionally well and physically well, and we also want you to be financially well.
Yes, and financially sound, right?
Yeah.
And really having it all in the sense that a lot of us will have the monies, right? And we get the coins, but we're miserable or we're unhappy, or there's blockages around accepting that you have the bag, right? How many of us feel bad sometimes because we are doing a little bit better than somebody we know? And then you can't even really enjoy and flourish in that space. So we are so excited to have this conversation so that we can, again, keep pushing that conversation so that we can get more comfortable in these spaces talking about things that actually matter, so that we can be better. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
So listen, I need y'all to understand, Ashley and I met actually in New York. She was just starting her business, Empify. She has a community of over 2,500 folks all over the globe, who she is teaching them how to become wealth builders. I mean, listen, I'm a member as well. Don't ask me what the last class I took was, because we're not going to discuss that, okay? Because that's a trigger for me. I'm going to do better. But no, Ashley makes finance easy. She makes learning about money fun, and she makes it so that there's very little resistance to your ability to learn and your ability to accept that you, as you are, born as you are, who you are, can grow and build wealth for generations to come. So without further ado, my good friend, Ashley M. Fox. And she cute too. Okay, let me see you. Okay, thighs. Okay. Okay, just as cute as you want to be.
Right?
Hey, ladies. Hey.
Hello. Welcome.
So we have had a conversation with Ashley previously.
On the podcast.
Yes, on the podcast. And that conversation was so well received. So we wanted to make sure that we brought you back to talk about a piece and part that we didn't even discuss on the podcast, which is our conversations around our worthiness. Because for a lot of people, they miss out on how much they can not only grow, but how much they can amass, because they just simply don't feel worthy, or they don't feel like it's a possibility for them. Yeah. So this particular conversation is centered around financial abundance. So this particular question is centered around financial abundance. So for so many, they do not believe that it is an option for them. And anything that you don't agree or believe is an option for you, you don't even try and create it. You don't go after it, because in your mind, it's simply not possible. So where do you believe that feeling or that energy may stem from? And then how can we start to reframe our own sense of value to create what we believe is the life that we want?
So to be honest, it starts in your childhood. If you didn't grow up with money, you ever remember asking your parents, can I get they're saying, no, we can't afford this, we can't afford this. However your parents typically talk to you about what you wanted in money is probably how you talk to yourself, and you don't even recognize it. And I think we spent so many years worrying about and focusing on what we could not have, and we don't allow ourselves the space to recognize what we can have and what we deserve. And so because our mind and our environment is not surrounded by abundance, is not surrounded by wealth, our perception of what we feel like we can obtain goes just as far as what our minds can take us. And so I think one of the things, and I think it's first recognizing, hey, I didn't grow up with money. Hey, I sometimes talk down on myself because I'm behind with money. I don't feel like I can afford certain things. Just the concept of the word expensive, it's a perception. Yeah. Like Jay-Z and Beyonce can ride a private jet and it's not expensive to them, but we think it's expensive. I mean, how many of us remember as kids when $1,000 was a lot of money, and now we can't do anything with $1,000?
Not one thing.
And not in New York.
But it's a perception. So how about we channel that it's not a lot of money, $1,000 to $10,000 to $100,000 to $1 million, right? It's just about the perception that we have. And I think one of the things that helped me, because I grew up in a 2-parent home where we were okay middle class, right? Like, but I was also the first person to graduate from college. I was making more money than both my parents by the time I was fresh out of college, and I worked on Wall Street. And not everybody wants to work on Wall Street, but I was around millionaires and billionaires every day. Like, I was in their bank accounts. Like, I saw everything. And so my perception of what's possible is what I saw every single day. And I think we have to purposefully put ourselves in spaces that make us feel small when it comes to money. Like there were times, you ever flew first class? I don't know if you ever flown first class. You get treated different.
It's a different energy.
It's not even the seats the seats feel different, but you get treated different. While everybody's getting on the plane, they're asking you, are you thirsty?
They call you by your name.
Yeah. And so it's like, you got to get used to that. But you got to put yourself in that space, and you got to recognize that that ticket that you're paying for is now an investment in your abundant mindset. And so I think we got to intentionally put our, it's so crazy when I first got here. I literally posted this yesterday. When I got off the plane to come here, I rode by this building called One Manhattan Square. Based off of the knowledge that I literally used to want to live in this building, right? And I wanted to live in one of the best buildings in New York, but I needed floor-to-ceiling windows. And I needed a city view, right? So I toured almost every luxury apartment in New York City. And I toured that building 4 times. And I was walking in like, look, I got the money. Like, I'm acting like I'm about to sign the application. But I just wanted to feel the feeling of what it felt like being in that apartment. Yeah. And even though I didn't have the money, I put my storage unit, I put my stuff in storage right up the street from that building because I knew one day I was going to move into that space. But I say that to say, even though I didn't have it, they didn't know.
I know. We interrupted at the best part, but hear me out.
Dating should not be this hard. Let's be honest. We've all said it at least once that the dating pool has pee in it.
It has to. After dozens of dates, too many failed relationships, engagements, marriages, and even a divorce, we decided it was crucial that we find ways to be better at attracting the partners that we desire. So we did just that, and we created the Dating Well AF course.
It's specifically designed to show women how to date with intention and in alignment with their desired type of lifestyle and experience. The 5-module crash course developed by certified coaches Alechia and Dani provides practical tools to date well and live even better.
So I want you to register now for lifetime access to the Dating Well AF course at datingwellaf.com. You will tap all the way in to learn how to identify those self-sabotaging behaviors, discover new ways to date intentionally, and to nurture that healthy love.
Remember, one of the most important life decisions you'll ever make is who you decide to make your partner. Make the choice well and visit datingwellaf.com.
Now, back to the episode.
But I was looking at the application, I was preparing, and I think we got to put ourselves in the space of what makes us uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. Yeah. And it's crazy because that was literally a year ago. I literally live in the equivalent in Atlanta, same apartment, like literally, like, and it's like, wow, I remember when I couldn't afford that. And next thing you know, I decided to move to Atlanta, but I moved into the space that's equivalent to the place that I dreamed of living. And so it's like, even though I felt like I didn't have the money, like it was sometimes I didn't have half the rent. But at the same time, you got to put yourself in that space no matter how uncomfortable it feels.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times we get uncomfortable in those spaces because we feel like we don't belong there, right? And one of the things that I love about you and following you on Instagram, y'all have to follow her on Instagram because she just gives all the gems and everything. But we see the glory a lot of times and not the story. And you are very intentional about making sure that you share both, right? Like you just told us a little bit of your business right now just because that's just how you are. Like you're just like, I'm gonna tell you all the things. And I feel like it's very difficult sometimes to maintain that sense of worthiness while you might be struggling, right? Like it just feels like, okay, how am I supposed to put myself in that space and go around these people or walk into that building where I don't feel worthy of being in that building when I feel like, okay, if I walk in there, are they gonna notice my shoes? Are they gonna notice my bag is from Ross? It's from, like there's all these things come. And then now when you have social media and you start the comparison game, it just drives you further down the rabbit hole. So how have you been able to kind of maintain that sense of worthiness throughout your journey, even when things didn't feel that good? Like, what do you do in those
So
spaces?
I have been going to therapy since 2017.
Okay.
And I make working on Ashley a priority. Like, now I make a lot more money than what I did in 2017, but I spend thousands of dollars on my brain, on my health, on my food, because I have to be the best version of me in every area of my life in order for me to be the best person for the people that I serve, right? And so for me, I wasn't always like that. Like, I remember going on TV and I felt very uncomfortable, and I felt like I wasn't going to make it if I was going to be in the public eye, so I knew I had to go to therapy. And what therapy did for me, it helped me get to the root of where that story came from. So why are we feeling like we're unworthy? Why do we feel like we don't belong? Well, when you walk into those spaces and those are the dominant thoughts, that's how you're going to carry yourself. So some things that I do, like I purposely, even going to the gym, I make sure I look cute every time I go to the gym to make me believe that I can do this. When I walk into certain spaces, like I have to feel the best. So that might mean getting your nails done, getting your hair done, so you can remind yourself of who you are, but also who you are becoming. But we got to get really good at listening to those voices, because it's two people. It's the person listening to those voices, and it's the person speaking those words to you. And so sometimes it's like, hey, Ashley, I know you don't have the money for this apartment, but baby girl, we're going to figure this out. But in the meantime, I want you to feel this feeling as if it's yours. Mind you, nobody knows but you. Nobody knows how much money is in your bank account. Like, these people didn't know that I was living in an Airbnb up the street, like trying to figure out what was next in life, but I still walked like I deserved to have that. And so I think you get to a space where you recognize you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And now me living in that apartment is nothing. I feel like now I gotta find a bigger place because it's easy for me. So it's like, let's normalize the big things. And once that big thing becomes small, let's find another big thing that scares. And I think we have to do that daily. Like every day, something about what you want to obtain should scare you every single day.
I love that. I love that. And now listen, I want to make sure that we keep you safe. So go ahead and pull on up a little bit for me in that chair.
Pull up?
Just pull up just a little bit for me. Just because, I like to keep my folks safe.
More, just so we extra.
Just an extra. There we go. There we go.
Got it.
All right, 'cause listen, this is good. So we got to stay in the goodness of this. But you said something to me that was, and you wasn't really talking to me, but I felt like you were. You said that you basically knew that you were starting to get opportunities that you knew that if you didn't work on yourself, you were not going to make it. So the first time you were on TV, you said you felt so uncomfortable that you were not going to make it if you did not work on yourself. For a lot of us, and I say it all the time, your talent can get you into places that your character will kick you out of. And the next phase and stage to that is your talent, character, and mental stability cannot keep you in places that you have not prepared for. So our minds are something that many times we don't take account for. We make the money, we do the things, we get the roles, make the achievements, do all the things, but we don't always ensure that we are maintaining our mental health, which is why for me this is so important. But what were for you were the first steps when it came to, I know I'm not going to make it, what does it look like for me to seek help? What did that look like for you? Because you came from, yes, working on Wall Street, but then sleeping on your mom's couch.
Right. So when I went on TV and I felt uncomfortable, I didn't understand why. I didn't understand, and now when I watched my clip, you ever look at your videos or your pictures and you try to find what's wrong? There was nothing wrong. And I'm like, but you still aren't happy. Like, what's wrong? And it's like, I know if this is the direction my life is going, I need help. And so I just went to therapy. So now, I have this rule with therapy. I go to 3 sessions. If you don't make me feel uncomfortable or hit some part inside of me, then I move on. And so I went to therapy and I had my 3rd session because I was about to get rid of the lady, and she made me cry. And at that moment, I said, "Oh, you good, lady. You can make me cry, okay." But I know if there's pain and hurt inside, it needs to come out because it came from somewhere. And so it's like, get all of this pain out, get all of this sadness out, because this is what's stopping me from becoming this best version of me that I want to become. And what it did, I got to the root of where the voices came from. Like, hey, I know why you think you're not good enough because this happened at this age and your parent wasn't there to tell you it's okay. You know, like, so you got to also learn to reparent yourself. So in those moments where I'm like, hey, Ashley, I'm scared. And it's just funny. I was doing it right there. I'm like, Ashley, you good? I feel like you sweating right now. Like, this is your thing. Like, you do this all the time. But even in those moments, I gotta give Ashley a pep talk. But it's not Ashley, big Ashley. It's little Ashley. Like, hey, baby, I love you. It is okay. Breathe. I got you. And it's like, okay. And then I get up and then I remember that I'm big Ashley Marie Fox. And we walk up to this stage and it's like, but sometimes you need those conversations. But I also know where those stories came from. A lot of us are walking around feeling like we don't have a lot of money or we can't do this and we don't know where it came from. So we choose to identify with it. So it's like I have a mom who loves luxurious things and a dad who's like, he doesn't need all that fancy stuff, right? The wife does, but he didn't, right? So I was confused. I'm working with billionaires. I see them in private jets, so I deserve one. But I have a father who makes me feel like, well, you don't need that fancy stuff. And a mom that's waiting for me to get my own jet. So as a kid, I'm confused. As an adult, I'm confused. And so I had this desire to have this dream Mercedes, right, that I have now. But when I wanted that car, I remember when a new Mercedes came out and I got to the dealer and I touched it. And I'm like, ooh, I think it was like 80, 90,000. And I was like, ooh, like, but in that moment, it was like, well, who says you can't have an $80,000, $90,000 car? Like, where's this coming from? You know, people that have $200,000 cars and they're younger than you. So guess what I had to do? I had to test drive the car 4 or 5 times until I got to a space where it's like, this is my car. Like, that is your dad's story. That's your mom's story. But what do you want, Ashley?
Yeah.
Ashley wants this car. She deserves this car, so we're going to go get this car. And I think we have to recognize where our stories came from because sometimes it comes from the news, comes from your parents, comes from your environment. It's like, is that really who you are? Yeah. Like, I when I left my Wall Street job in 2013, working from anywhere was not a thing. Instagram and social media wasn't sexy, but I felt crazy that I didn't want to work on Wall Street anymore, and I'm making 6 figures, and my mom, she's waiting for the private jet. But like I had people like, you left working on Wall Street, and she's like, yeah, I just wasn't happy. And it's like, now look at the world, right? Like, that's what we're searching for. But I had to recognize is working on Wall Street, having that career, great resume, is that what you want or is that what the world tells you what you're supposed to have? And I had to recognize I don't have the answers, but it doesn't feel right at my core. And I think you gotta trust that you know you better than anybody and just know that it's going to work out. Like, and I have no regrets, but I do have sometimes wonder, like, who told us we had to have this job? Like, what if we can have this job and have a phenomenal experience and can still evolve and things like that? So I think it's just knowing where are these stories coming from? And therapy, and I have a spiritual advisor, I got an executive coach, like, hey, I'm recognizing when I show up to work, I don't think I'm good enough. Well, that's the same not good enough you had when you wanted the Mercedes, so we still got some more work to do, right? And it's like, let me remind you of who you are and what you've progressed, how you've progressed and what you've obtained.
Yeah. Ooh. And one of the things that I love about the things that you share on Instagram is you talk a lot about investing. And I'm sure in your cohort, a lot of times, the one thing that people say is like, I don't got no money to invest. Like, investing just seems like it's for millionaires and billionaires. And it can be difficult to think about investing when your basic needs are met, right? So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the baseline psychological needs and physiological needs are food, water, warmth, rest, security, and safety. There are so many people, especially we learned during COVID, that do not have a lot of that. And it just seems like, okay, how am I supposed to invest and build wealth? Like, what are you talking about building wealth and I don't even know how I'm going to pay my rent? I can't afford a Mercedes. Like, I can't do any of those things. So what are some practical steps that people can take when they're not maybe in the best financial position or they're not feeling safe or secure enough to make that move? How can they do that when they don't have enough or they feel like they don't have enough to invest?
So I think the first thing is you got to remove the word enough.
Ooh, okay.
Like we got to remove the word enough. We have to remove the word should. Like, all of these psychological blocks are already making you feel like I don't have enough. Enough to do what? Because like, do you have enough to buy stock in Amazon? Do you not have enough? Like, who is creating these standards, right? And I think we should start measuring ourselves by the progress we make. So how about, hey, I don't have enough to invest, but do you have enough time to open a brokerage account because it takes less than 5 minutes? Ooh. Do you have that? That's the first thing you need to do. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, and nowadays investing, you don't need, back when I started, you needed to have a certain minimum. It's different now. Like the game has changed, right? You have $5 you can invest, right? With some of the biggest and best Wall Street investment banks out there, right? So it's like, hey, how much can you, like, I would encourage all of you, write down, if I could set this amount aside every month, and I don't care if it's 50 cents, if it's $5, write down, this is my number. I know for a fact I can set this aside every single month, right?
Yeah.
Do we all have a number in our head?
Yes. I have
Cut
my
the number in half.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So when you cut the number in half, it's even more doable. Do that. Don't put this pressure, I gotta do this. No. Like, some of the biggest and best companies in the world are affordable. You ever heard of like a stock split? Stock splits essentially is like if I had a slice of pizza and the three of us were up here and I said, well, this pizza's $30. And you say, well, I don't have $30. Okay, cool. Do you have 10? I'll split it up. Now you can afford it. Stock splits have taken place with some of the biggest and best companies so that everybody could afford them. Because they know when you buy their stock, their price rises, so everybody wins. So in this case, when you have companies that are now trillion-dollar businesses that cost less than the shoes we wear, so now it's not a matter of if I have enough, it's just do you have the right priorities? Ooh. Because now when you recognize, hey, these are not expensive, but you contribute to their bottom line, now you have to ask yourself, am I okay with only being somebody's consumer, or am I willing to be someone's owner? Because that's what you are when you buy stock in a company. And so I think one of the things that I do is debunk these narratives that have been embedded in our mind. Like, because people don't look like an African-American woman as an investor, we think it's not possible. And I left my Wall Street job with the intent that I will never wear a black or blue suit on stage. So I will wear a lime green suit, but I will have the same exact conversations I had when I had on a black or blue suit, right? So, but it's for us to recognize that, like, wealth doesn't have a color. It doesn't have an enoughness. It doesn't have a benchmark. It's who you are when you look in the mirror and can say, hey, I'm a wealth builder. And the reason I call our community the Wealth Builders community is because you're not wealth build. I didn't ask you to have it ready. I asked you to just continue to build it. Be a builder. What do you have to do to build? You got to lay the first brick. Then you lay the next brick, right? Like, and that's okay. But if we're okay with not laying bricks, we got to have another conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
We think wealth is about having the mansion, but every person that had a mansion had to lay the first brick. Yeah. What if that first brick was that first share that's $50 and you chose to set aside $50 and invest it in a company you give your money to every day? Because the companies that essentially run this country are literally less than $200-300, the majority of them, and I promise you use them at least once a week. I promise you.
And you're spending the money anyway.
You're spending the money anyway and giving it to them. But the rich get richer because the valuation of their company rises. The valuation rises because they're making more money. In a pandemic, in a recession,
from you, right?
They're making money. So it's like, if you have the money to spend at the company, why not set money aside to also invest in the company, right? And it's like, you're going to spend it anyway. Like, I like nice stuff, but I also invest. And I think we guarantee decreasing our net worth by spending money, but we give ourselves a possibility to increase our net worth by investing money. And for me, it's just making you realize you don't need a lot of money to invest. You don't. The world is different. You need the self-belief that you deserve to now play this game. And once you know the rules of the game, you can play it.
You know, one of my favorite quotes. So y'all don't know me real well yet, but y'all finna learn a little something about me. So I've been a rebel all my life. I mean, all my life. My mama used to tell me all boys give you are babies and diseases. So I didn't kiss my first boy until I was 15. I told y'all we getting real intimate today. And so when I kissed the boy, mind you, I didn't even choose him. My girlfriends was like, okay, the next boy who walked by, that's gonna be your first kiss. So I was like, okay. So when I kissed him and I realized boys don't just give you babies and diseases, it was over for her.
They give you so much more.
So much more. And so from then on, I have been a rebel. And the quote that you just said, the person who wrote it said, learn the rules so you can break them like an artist. And the one thing that you have to know about America is America has lots and lots and lots of rules in place for folks who have learned how to break the rules like an artist. And one of the things that I truly do know is when you have a certain belief in yourself, the things that you go after, the things that you know are possible, the rules that you break like an artist because then they're not illegal. It's tax avoidance, not tax evasion. Those are very, very different. It can be challenging, right? Learning how to figure out that, not only do I deserve certain things, but I believe that what I deserve is what I can have. And undoing so many years of generational programming, especially that poor generational programming, and then conditioning, especially around money, the start to that can seem like insurmountable. Like what you just gave us previously. Okay, write your number down and now break it in half, so that makes it something that you can actually do. So now, of course, we know you were a Wall Street analyst, working with those high net worth individuals who had a whole lot of money. What would you say were 3 of the greatest differences in terms of mindset and belief systems that these individuals had compared to many of those that not only you've worked with, but those that you're encountering? Because we want to know how to break the rules like an artist, and we can't do that if we don't believe in ourselves.
So it's funny, I just shot a video doing this. The first one is their investing is not an option, it's a standard.
Okay.
It's a standard.
Okay.
There is no let's save our way to wealth or work our way there. It's not going to work. We all know people who save, and we all know people who work really hard but still aren't wealthy. They invest their way. And there's 2 ways to truly build wealth in America. You invest in your own idea or you invest in somebody else's idea. That's it. Because you cannot save your way to wealth. It's not going to happen. So that's the first thing. So you got to make investing not an option. And again, I didn't say it had to be $1 million, but you got to make it not an option, because wealthy people, they would rather invest their money and have it have the ability to make money for them than have it sit in a savings account, and inflation is a lot higher than what they're getting. So technically, you're losing money if it's not working for you. And so we were trained, if our clients had millions of dollars, the next meeting, we had to propose recommendations for it to be investable. Not only does the bank make money as a result of that, but the client makes money as well, because they're losing money just having it sit there. How many of us remember what $100 got us at the grocery store 10 years ago to what it does now, right? You would have had that same $100 sitting in that account. It would be worthless now if you were to go spend it. Yeah. The second thing I would say about wealthy people is they have a team around them. A team. Wealthy people have their asset manager, right? So I'm going to actually break it down to you as if you're not a billionaire, right? They have an asset manager. In our world, you have an Ashley Fox, a financial educator. Somebody that's constantly exposing you to financial information, ideas, tools, resources. Because when you have 25 million, most of our clients were not financial experts. They just needed to you can't go to a Chase Bank or a normal retail bank with $25 million. The products are different. Yeah. And I worked at JP Morgan. You had to go upstairs if you had a certain amount of money. And if you didn't have it, we sent you back downstairs, right? So they're just products you can't utilize. No. So you need someone exposing you how to put your money to work, right? They also had a CPA, because if you're out here making money, you want to make sure you're paying as little as tax to the IRS. Now, again, they pay taxes, but while you may pay 30, 40%, my first year in business, I paid 10. So when you make $100,000 and you pay 30, 40,000 in taxes, I only paid 10,000. That's the difference. And it's not illegal. That's how America was designed. So you need that CPA to preserve your wealth, right? They also then had trust and estate attorneys, right? Here's what happens. Something happens to you, where's your money go? Like right now, really ask yourself, if something happens to you, the money that's in your check, how many of you have children? Raise your hand. The money that's in your checking account, does anybody know that account exists? Do you have beneficiaries on that account? How many of you own a home? Raise your hand. What happens to your mortgage? If your family lives in that house, they're going to take the house if the bank doesn't get paid, right? Like, how many of you have people that rely, raise your hand if there are people who actually rely on you, that you take care of? What happens if you're not here? Because now they have to suffer from an emotional burden, but also now a financial burden. So if we're going to play this game of money, you have to not only make it, you have to preserve it. You ever ride by a Hilton hotel? You know that's somebody's last name? Like, that's somebody's last name. Like the Walton family, the Walmarts, that's somebody's family's business, right? Like, so it's like, hey, what are you preserving? What are you protecting? Because if you're gone, it's gone. The IRS and the government will take it. It will sit in your estate unless your family has money to pay probate to get it out. But how many of us actually know that process, right? And so the last thing I would say too is they have a mentality that they deserve to build wealth. There is an we can call it white supremacy, you call it whatever you want. They walk in that room and know that I run this country. I have this money because I create the jobs. So I get to break the rules. Like they literally do. And it's like, what if we walked into a room saying, hey, all you companies that make money off of me and my buying power, I know you need me. So this is how this is going to go, right? So, and they don't have that necessary sense of arrogance, but that's how they walk. They come into a room knowing
It's the energy.
that's it. Like it's just get money. I don't know what I would watch them and they would walk like it, they would talk like it, they would dress like it. And it's like, well, and I was working on Wall, so like back when I first started my first internship, Tory Burch dresses were like the sexy thing, or the Hermes scarves, and I'm like, I gotta get me one of those. I gotta walk this walk too, like. And it's not because I wanted to fit in. I wanted that confidence, and sometimes that confidence for me came with feeling good. So get good at it. What makes you feel good? Like you got some fly earrings on. I know you feel good with your earrings on. Like you need, and so they would come into this room like knowing that I got all this money. I done dedicated my sweat, blood, and tears, whatever, or my mommy, my daddy did, whoever. There's a sense of entitlement. But it's not entitlement. It's recognizing that I believe this is my money and I deserve it. And it's like, what if we own that $100 in our bank account? This is mine. I worked for this. Therefore, I deserve to be treated this way when I walk into that store.
Ooh. And I love that you just said that, because it just brought back this memory that really shifted my perspective. I was on a date with a wealthy man, and we walked into a restaurant, and he decided he was cold, and he asked them to turn. I mean, it's a restaurant of like 100 people. Like it's not a little hole in the wall. It was a beautiful restaurant. And he asked them to turn up the air because he was cold. And I was like, what? Like, who just decides that the whole restaurant needs to shift because I'm in here and I'm uncomfortable and you guys need to accommodate me? It changed my life. Like, it was so small, but when you're paying attention to just tiny behaviors that people have, it can really shift your perspective. And I was just like, I can tell people that I can walk in and say, like, I don't like this, or, oh, this makes me uncomfortable, and it was just such an interesting perspective to have. And in the moment, I was like, you're so entitled. Like, who do you think you are?
But that's just for me, listen, like, I remember a long time ago when I first started my company, Empify, and this is before Trump had ran for office, or he was talking about it. And he was like, you need the confidence of a mediocre white man. And I was like, I was offended because I could honestly say I did not have the confidence of a mediocre white man. And it's like, how come they could be mediocre and have bigger confidence than me and I look like this? You know, like, and it's like we don't need to go on the outside to find the confidence. We got to go on the inside. It's not America's job to make us feel worthy. It's our job to recognize that we are worthy. And I feel like when you walk and talk like you got money, I guarantee you it's going to start to come.
And can we just look around the room and look how fine we are and how fly we are and brilliant we are? Like, no excuses. No excuses.
And now I'm super excited to move to this next segment. But Ashley, you always feel me every time you open your mouth. But I do want to make sure we get one question in at least. Okay. Now, I love you, but you asked the question already, my love. I love you, though. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Hi. Oh, we get a mic. Okay. Hello, I'm Raval Davis. This has been so good. It's so transformational. Everything is so good. My question is, as a creative, right? A creative person, someone in a non-traditional space, right? So my mom always had a Mercedes. She had a Rolls Royce in the 80s. They make way more money than I make now as a non-traditional person, right? So it's not a family thing, right? But I did transition from being a corporate person making a certain amount of money now to, creating my own career, right? My own career path as an actor and a host, right? So just talking about like when you're having those challenges financially, when you're not making the money that you used to make in corporate, how do you how do you get from one place to the other? Because I look at myself all the time. I'm like, oh no, I know I deserve it.
And she walks like it too.
I walk. You know, we go in a restaurant. I tell you, turn the air down in a minute. Okay. Look, I'm uncomfortable.
It used to make me very uncomfortable watching her move about the world because she would just move like the world was supposed to move how she wanted it to move.
I'm here for it.
It made me uncomfortable.
I ask for what I want and I need. Yes, it's true.
But I'm sorry, continue your question though.
Yes, good.
So,
Jump in.
all right, so let me ask you a follow-up question. When that thought comes up, but what you're describing,
yes.
What does it make you feel like? I used to be in corporate,
yes.
Now I'm creative. I saw the money, I got the confidence. When you feel that disconnect, what's it feel like?
It feels like not good enough. Yeah.
Right. So the fact that you recognize it means it still exists. It's not until that not good enough doesn't like right now. Have you ever if I came up to you, Alechia, and said, "Girl, you are ugly." At not any moment will you feel like you believe it, right? So while part of you may recognize I'm confident here, you got to find where you're not confident there.
Yeah,
And the money
that's
stuff.
a big one. Yeah.
So is it the money stuff?
I mean, I'm a person if you tell me a date and a time, I just edit out all the numbers.
Oh, well, okay, so the good part is you recognize it. So now it's figuring out how can I get good and build. You can't build a business around a brand if you don't know the business behind the brand. Mm-hmm. So I think it's about how do I build that confidence in that area that I run from? How do I immerse myself? How do I challenge myself? How do I ask questions? Because in front of the camera, the confidence is there, but the maximizing the presence of the camera isn't there.
Okay.
And that's the business part. So maybe, how can I get good at building the business of Reval? How can I be the best version of me as the CEO who runs Reval?
Okay.
And thinking it from that perspective, now,
Right?
now,
Good, right? Like getting into the
now
numbers.
that not enough in that part of my life is I'm filling that cup up. And next thing you know, the money's going to come because the confidence around the money being there is different in the woman inside of you.
Yeah, and also too, what I heard too is you have an expectation that now that I'm a creative, I'm going to make less.
Yeah.
And I just don't agree. I feel like because
did
you
I
are,
say that?
that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. If I'm being honest with you, that's what I received. Maybe I was maybe my receiver was on the wrong channel.
I truly believe that I'm on my way to my
No.
multi-million.
But-
I be looking at my bank every day confused.
But I think what a lot of people don't have as creatives is the persistence to not stop. And while it took me years to cross $1 million, right? And when I got it, it was normal. And so it's like, get to a space where the money you want. I think also, think about the word therapy. It doesn't have the best fulfilling meaning. Like I call my company Empify. So it's funny, we were just talking, I go from within to get you from on the outside. We're gonna talk about money, we're gonna get to the root of money. But if I say Empify is a therapeutic company, you're not following me on social media. So let me talk about something that reach your mind and I'm gonna change your heart. So you gotta get really good at recognizing what does creator mean to you. Maybe we just call it the Reval. I was once in corporate and this is the Reval. And now it doesn't have a preconceived perception that creatives don't know business. It's the Reval now. So I think, and it's not just you, because a lot of creatives feel like that.
Yeah.
How about we just stop saying we're creatives and we make up our own? That's why I made up Empify. I don't want you to have a preconceived perception of what money is. It's now the Reval. I used to be in corporate. But now this is the Reval. I'm trying to figure out how I can maximize the Reval, and I'm going to learn how to run this Reval business because I'm going to run towards it.
Yes, to your multi-millions, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, one more question. We only have time for one more. Does anybody else have a question? Quick question.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, outfit.
Thank you. Where would you recommend people to start investing? I know there are drips, there's stocks, there's bonds. Stocks seem too unknown because I don't know enough about it to invest in stocks, but where would you encourage people to start?
Besides the Wealth Builders community.
So, okay. Outside of becoming a member in the Wealth Builders community, so we are like the Netflix of finance, where you have access to the financial tools and resources we didn't get growing up in our household or in our school system, right? But at the same time, I would say the best way to start is to make a list of where you spend money. Because it's easier to research a company, to have a desire to invest in a company if you know how the company makes money. How many of us shop on Amazon? Let's be honest. I bought a shower cap, ketchup. I bought everything on Amazon. And it's like, I'd be crazy if I don't look to see, can I own this company? So I would start with making a list of where you spend your money. When you make your list, right, what you want to first, and you can find us on Wikipedia, find who owns that company. So for example, we could be on Instagram, but Instagram's owned by Meta, Facebook, right? We might be on YouTube, but YouTube is owned by Google, which is Alphabet, right? So make sure you know the parent company that owns it. Then when you get that company name, type in that name and stock in Google, and if a chart pops up, that means you can buy stock in it. If a chart doesn't pop up, it's private. Like if you want to invest in Chick-fil-A, it's private.
That means it's publicly traded.
It's publicly
That's the
traded,
term.
meaning the public can own that company.
Okay.
You make that list, then you open a brokerage account, which literally could take less than 5 minutes.
How do you do that? How do you do that? You need
It's an
somebody-
online app. You can have
Okay.
Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade. They're all fine companies. And then you want to start to research. But you're not buying these companies just as an investor. You're buying that company as an owner. So if I ask you guys, I don't know how much time we got, but if I ask you, hey, if you want to invest in Empify, what do you want to know about me? If I say, hey, we're raising capital, you can get ownership of Empify, my company, what do you want to know about my company? Everything you would want to know about my company is what you need to know about Amazon. Who runs that company? Are they profitable? Do they have debt? What is their product? How do they make money? Who are their competitors? What is the vision through the recession? You want to make sure you understand that business. You want to understand what are people on Wall Street saying about this company? Do they have a good reputation? We know you spend money, but does that company make money? Right? And these are things you want to start to consider before you buy, because people think you're buying a price. You're becoming part owner of a business. So if your friend asks you to invest in their business, you better ask those questions. And I promise you, if you list out 10 questions you want to know about a company, those are the exact questions Wall Street analysts look for when they research a publicly traded company. And you want to start there. But it's easier to start when it's your company, your idea that you came up with, not the person on the internet telling you this up-and-coming, popping company that they say go invest because it's going to make. No. You want to know where your money is at all times, but you also want to know about these companies you're investing in as well.
Ooh, this has been delicious. Now, Ashley, where can we stay connected? How can we become members of the Wealth Builder community? I am a member. It is so, so good, and I'm going to take my class after.
Don't worry, we're building
week.
an infrastructure to find you. It's okay.
I just got an email last week telling me what class I need to take.
We have a no member left behind policy. You can't quit on you, and you definitely can't quit on me. But on social media, I am _Ashley Fox. That is my only account. Just want you to know. You can also go to empify.com. And those of you who are interested in investing, I will go to empify.com/free guide. It's 5 ways you can invest with less than $100. It'll start to open your mind like, hey, I don't have a lot. I'm scared, but here are certain things. So Empify, empify.com/free guide. And it's a free guide that you can download. But again, you can go to the Wealth Builders community. We got a lot of stuff coming. But yeah. Ashley and Fox.
Thank you. That was awesome.